Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. In this video, I'm going to cover my small but growing collection of conifers in my garden renovation project here in Raleigh, North Carolina, Zone 7B. If you haven't followed the channel up until now, there is a series of videos leading up to this point from where it started to where it is now. And now I'm putting in lots of conifers, mostly dwarf conifers. This is a small lot here in Raleigh. It's 0.19 acres, and I don't really want conifers that are going to get 60 feet tall like green giant arborvitae. Don't need them either. What I'm using conifers for is for structure in the winter garden, really. They'll stand out in the summer as well, but when all of my other flowering perennials and annuals and all of the other things I have going on out here in the summer are kind of fading away, which they are right now, these little conifers will kind of come to life almost. The first one I'm going to talk about right here is called Green Penguin. This is a Scots pine, or a Pinus sylvestris. This one's super interesting. It will end up, somewhere in this 3 to 4 foot range like this, and a perfect little pyramid, and it's actually kind of a penguin shape. That's where it gets its name, but just a really neat little, really neat little pine that will be at the entry to this little open fence gate area at the front of the lot. I got that Green Penguin Scots pine and this Cedrus atlantica Sapphire Nymph from my buddies at Mr. Maple. That was a video I put up with Tim and Matt a month or two ago. They have an interesting collection of dwarf conifers along with all the Japanese maples. Obviously, this is a dwarf Cedrus that will, in about 10 years, be 3 to 4 feet tall and about 3 to 4 feet wide. So it will fill a section right in here, currently occupied by some annuals and some other things, but slowly but surely, this beautiful blue-green conifer will fill in this space. That's 3 to 4 feet by 3 to 4 feet in 10 years. Keep in mind there's no off switch, even in a dwarf plant, okay? So it will continue to get bigger than that. So, the sizes that I'm kind of telling you are, 10 years out. 20 years out, it could be bigger, but it could be controlled at that 10-year size. I pulled 3 recently planted containers together. This little conifer here is a Cryptomeria. This is the first of several Cryptomeria. You'll see it's Cryptomeria japonica twinkle toes. It's a little tiny little dwarf Cryptomeria. This one, again, in a reasonable amount of time, will probably reach 3 to 4 feet and then can be maintained at that. Again, like I say, all of these will get taller. It is what it is, but it's super slow growing. I've had this one well over a year, and it's grown maybe 2 inches in a container in just absolutely perfect conditions, and just keep changing out annuals and perennials around it. The one in the center of this container is the first of several Chamaecyparis. We'll see this is Chamaecyparis lawsoniana, and this is L. woodi is the variety. This is a tall columnar conifer. It can reach probably 15 feet in height, but stay very narrow. Super interesting conifer. I'm going to keep it in this container for a long time. That will stunt it a little bit, and it can go in a corner somewhere in the landscape at the point where it needs to go into the ground. Great soft texture. We'll notice that on the other Chamaecyparis as well. This little teeny tiny conifer that just got planted in this container with the violas is an eastern arborvitae. This was a dwarf Thuja occidentalis Primo. And it kind of has a spiral shape as it grows. You can see a little bit of that starting to happen, but this one's only 6 inches tall. But this one can stay in a container for a long time. It's only going to reach 3 to 4 feet in that, that 10-year window. But again, 2, 3, 4 inches a year at the absolute most. Here's another tiny little Chamaecyparis. This is Chamaecyparis obtusa Shiraman. This one will, again, grow 3 to 4 feet and slowly over the next 10 years or so, but it has little spiky vertical elements on it that are also soft to the touch, which again, that's kind of the theme of these little these Chamaecyparis I'm showing you. One thing I want you to notice, and you should be able to see in the close-up here, there's a little browning down in the bottom of this plant, and this is completely normal in the fall that we'll see some of this. This is the time of year that conifers shed. And so I always get panicked questions about conifers this time of year having some browning in the center of them, but that's what that is. If it's abnormally dry, and it actually has been pretty dry this fall here in my area, it can be worse. So if you're seeing it, you might want to check and see if they do need some water, and again, water them if they need it. But even if they have adequate moisture, you may still see some of that in some of your conifers. Next up is another Cryptomeria, and this one's not actually going into this landscape. It's going into a landscape job that I have been working on that's in several parts. The first video I was missing this Cryptomeria japonica black dragon. This is a super interesting, upright, narrow growing Cryptomeria. Doesn't get as big as like Yoshino, which get 60 feet plus, and it doesn't stay small and dwarf like some of the other Cryptomeria that you'll see in this video. It's somewhere in between. I've seen these as tall as 15 feet or so. Kind of an open, little more rangy habit, not super tight and condensed. And I've always been drawn to this particular variety, black dragon. Next up are two more Camaecyparis here. This one's called Nightlight, and I've come over to this sunny spot so you can see how much this thing really shines in the garden. This one's actually a Southern Living Plant Collection introduction. Again, these Camaecyparis, this is Camaecyparis obtusa Nightlight, super soft to the touch. I would imagine that thing could probably become a 4 to 5 foot round ball over the next 10 years or so. I'll shear it in the late winter a bit to keep control of that, because I actually kind of want to keep it as that, not a whole lot bigger than it is now, maybe 3 by 3, and I can do that for a long time. Again, beautiful plant, soft to the touch. When it's growing, it has more gold color than when it's not. Next to it is a dwarf Hinoki cypress. I actually spent a little bit more money on this one because dwarf Hinokis grow so slowly that it would have just sat here forever in the ground, and I want it to kind of be a taller corner element here. But this is Camaecyparis obtusa dwarf Hinoki, and again, continuing that theme, super soft to the touch, super unique growth habit. Grows much slower than regular Hinoki cypress, but again, it can get quite big because there's no real off switch to it. But one of my absolute favorite conifers, and again, you see that browning down in the bottom of it because it's November and it's completely normal. The one exception to the 60-foot tall conifers in my landscape right now is this Arizona cypress, or Cuparis arizonica, and this variety is called Carolina Sapphire. It's become super popular for people to use as a screening plant, as a replacement for Leyland cypress. Get big, they're beautiful. You can see this blue foliage. The smell from them sometimes is a little odd. It's not that pine scent that people really like. It's somewhere honestly akin to cat pee a little bit. When it's warm, it's only sometimes that I smell it, but when I do, it does have a strange odor. This is a very fast-growing conifer, so if you're looking for a screening plant, it's fairly soft to the touch, super drought tolerant, as you would expect from an Arizona cypress. I've got this one in a container. It's eventually just going to move on somewhere. I'm going to give it to somebody who needs it for a screening plant, but I've enjoyed having it in a container. It's lasted almost 2 years in this container. I can shear it, probably get another season out of it, and I'll do that in the late winter, but I am leaving it as a single trunk. I don't want to cut that trunk out because the person I'm giving it to, I want them to have a nice, healthy plant in the future. Another one that was planted about this time last year is this beautiful Thuja occidentalis highlights. And it's called highlights because there are times of the year when it's actively growing that it's super bright yellow. It's got a little bit of that here in November, but not as much as other times of the year. It's an upright, taller growing gold arborvitae. It's got a little bit of damage down here at the bottom. One thing I will say is that you should try to locate these well. If you have a male dog, Griffin comes by here and hits this one on its way down this little path. Can't blame him. It's a perfect target here on the corner. So I wish I had it in a slightly different placement, because that's what the damage you're seeing right there on the bottom is. But this is a beautiful plant. One that most people know is Camaecyparis pisifera. This is Golden Mop cypress, and this one you'll just see in landscapes all over the place. I limbed this one up into a little tree form in a video last year. You can go back and find that on my channel. This plant's kind of funny because when you sell this, I grew and sold these for years, and people want the little tiny small ones. The little tiny small ones is the exact same ones as the 25-foot tall ones. This plant will just grow whatever size you want to keep it. I had a neighbor that kept these as little 18-inch round balls for the whole time I lived near him. 20 years he did that, and then I've seen this literally as a small tree, over 25 feet in height. But it has this beautiful gold foliage, again, like all the other Camaecyparis I'm showing you, that's super soft to the touch. Easy plant, and you can prune this thing back to an established one, back to almost nothing, and it'll come back out from that. This is a little Cryptomeria that I actually got from a sale of rare plants at the J.C. Ralston Arboretum. This is a Cryptomeria japonica Limeade. There's another variety called Limeade that has a bit more gold in it. This one's grown, I guess I've had it for close to 2 years now, and it's grown maybe a foot in height during that time. It'll grow just as I could probably keep this as a 3 to 4 foot tall, slightly broader at the bottom than at the top conifer, kind of pyramid shape, really, if I wanted to, or let it probably, creep up over 10 feet in time. I've had it in this container for a long time, and it's about time for it to go in the ground. In fact, this Arizona cypress is kind of eating it from behind here, but it's got these beautiful cones on it, and just a great texture. I really like this one. So this is the first juniper I'm showing you, and here in zone 7B in the southeast should be lots of junipers if we're going to have conifers, because they are the most, probably about at the top of the list of the most heat tolerant. This is a spreading variety. This is a Juniperus fitzeriana. This one's called Golden Joy. It's basically a gold ground cover juniper. This will look great here right in front. I've got 2 boxwoods behind me. I'm kind of sitting on one. This should spread out and be just kind of a low gold accent piece. Only going to grow about 3-4 inches in width each season, but again, junipers are tough as nails. This is Camaecyparis pisifera, Boulevard cypress. This one's again, like the other Camaecyparis, super soft to the touch. Some people call this one blue moss fault cypress. It has this beautiful blue hue to it. This plant can become quite large over time. Not the fastest growing thing in the world, like a lot of these other conifers you're seeing. Just put this one in this barrel container. It can sit in here for 2 years probably and not cause me any problems. Eventually go in the ground, and again, I've seen these very big. There's nothing to really, there's no off switch for it, but again, not in a hurry. Beautiful blue evergreen plant that's, again, soft to the touch. So I showed Black Dragon a little while ago, a Cryptomeria japonica Black Dragon. This is Cryptomeria japonica Dragon Warrior. This is actually a sport of this one. So this is a selection off of it that has a dwarf tendency and has a much more compact habit. You can see, as you can see side by side, where the Black Dragon is stretched out a little more, and this one, all of the kind of internodes, the spots where the branching happens, are much closer together. Neat little plant. Again, Black Dragon can get big, and I'm sure this one will too, just at a much slower pace, but I want to keep it somewhere in the 3 to 4 foot range in this little corner spot. Another tiny one that I just planted is this Camaecyparis obtusa Thowil, and I may be mispronouncing the name of this particular variety, but it's basically a golden dwarf Hinoki cypress. So you saw the Hinoki cypress in the front garden space. This one's going to have a bit of a golden hue to it on the new growth. So again, slow growing, and but it'll add 3 to 4 inches a year. It'll eventually become as big as it wants to get, but over the next 10 years or so, I think it will get right into this size and shape, just like this, which is kind of perfect for this spot. One other group of conifers I haven't discussed yet in this video is Cephalotaxis. Cephalotaxis are yew-like plants, or yew-looking conifers, and they're a little hardier in the south than most regular yews. But this is Cephalotaxis Harringtonia, and this variety is called Utopia. I've mentioned it on the channel several times. It's a Southern Living Plant Collection variety. It'll get maybe 3 to 4 feet in height, and then it's probably as wide as you want to let it get. So it says 3 to 4 feet in width on the tag, but it'll probably get as wide as you want to let it get, but you can easily control the width and the height on this plant any way you want. And I've had this one in a container now for over a year, and it's doing great. I limbed it up just a bit so I could underplant it, but out in the landscape, they're fuller to the ground than what this one looks like. This is another Cryptomeria. This is Cryptomeria japonica Dragon Prince. And Dragon Prince is similar to one that's been around forever called Globosa nana, but it's a little bit of a tighter growth habit. And this one's just going to be super, super popular in the trade. Again, another Southern Living Plant Collection one, super soft to the touch. The one I have planted in front of the shed over there is, I think it was the second plant I planted in this landscape. It's never been touched. It's just a perfect little dome. It'll creep up to 3 or 4 feet in height, but can be kept 18 inches probably, or 24 inches in height if you want to, and maybe 3 to 4 feet in width. I have one blue spruce in the landscape. This is Pisifera pungens glauca globosa nana, which is it just means dwarf blue spruce. This one, I think on most tags, is probably going to say it gets 3 feet by 3 feet. Again, it's going to outgrow that in time, but it's super, super slow growing. It's been in the ground for all of this year, and it's grown maybe 1.5 inches, so don't expect it to cause me any problems here in the next 10 years or so. But it has this beautiful blue foliage. They're not the most hardy things down here in the southeast, and so I've got this one where it's going to get a lot of direct sun, but probably only about 6 hours of it. So I'm probably not going to get quite the blue color that I would get in a more sunny location, but I believe that I will have hopefully lowered the heat stress on it just a bit. One more group of conifers to present here. This is a Podocarpus, and if you are in the southeast, Podocarpus are super, super heat tolerant. This is a group of conifers we can definitely grow here. This is Podocarpus macrophyllus mood ring. When it has new growth on it during the spring and summer, it's kind of has pink hues to it, really bright, beautiful plant. I need to actually prune this one kind of in half and refill the bottom out. I had it, it was a bit stretched in the container that I had it in before I put it in the ground, so it needs a little bit of work, but Podocarpus are super, super easy plants here in the southeast for us to use. Most of them have an upright, narrow habit, and I'll show you one more right now. So this is another Podocarpus macrophyllus. This one's called Roman Candle. Has this beautiful white, new, variegated growth on it. The more it's growing, the brighter it is. Here we are in November, and it still has a lot of this color. Just a beautiful plant. Being that it's a variegated form of Podocarpus, it will grow a little bit slower than that mood ring Podocarpus that I just showed you. But it actually, I feel like, has a more compact habit because of that. But again, it's going to creep up and be as tall as you want it to be, but you can see all the I guess, verticality in the growth. It's going to just be an upright, narrow element, not take up a lot of ground space in the landscape. So last up in my current collection of conifers in this Raleigh, North Carolina landscape is this deodar cedar. This deodar cedar is called Feelin Blue. It's a weeping blue cedar. What's interesting about this is a Cedrus deodara Feelin Blue. This is one of the actual true cedars. There's actually only 4 species of cedars on the planet. That Cedrus atlantica that we saw in the front yard is one of them. And then there are 2 additional ones other than Cedrus deodara. A lot of things are called cedars, like we call eastern red cedars and western cedars aren't actually cedars. But this one is an actual cedar, and it has a beautiful weeping habit. It will get as wide and as tall as I want to let it get. I've seen these 6 to 8 feet tall and as much as 10 or 12 feet wide. I'm obviously not going to let that happen with this one in this small space that I have it in. This one's a little thin. I bought it on as a bargain plant toward the end of last season, and it's filled back in quite a bit, but it's still got a little bit of recovery to go. But that's Cedrus deodara Feelin Blue. So there it is, the current collection of conifers in this 0.19 acre lot here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm definitely going to add some more. The beauty of them, again, is that what they add to the winter garden, and they give great structure. A lot of them can give you beautiful new color when they're growing, like yellows and blues and even pinks like that mood ring Podocarpus. Just great plants in the landscape. They also make, especially here in the southeast, fantastic container plants because most of them are hardy into like zone 5 and I'm in zone 7. So this Cryptomeria can sit in this container over the winter and I really don't have to worry about it. And so just a lot of different uses and a lot of value to be gained, especially, like I say, in the cooler times of the year with conifers. thanks for watching, guys, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for future content.